Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Round 5 review. I very nearly said welcome to the morning sports briefing, but hey, no, it's 8 p.m. at night. It's not 7 a.m. in the morning, folks. Got to get the right show, haven't we? Yes, the final round of the regular season for Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. We had 5 games, 2 on Friday and 3 on Saturday, with 4 teams still with a chance of making it into the final, even if there was only realistically 3 of them. But hey, that's how these things go. You never know, do you, Stephen, as to whether you might or might not make it.
Yeah, too true, Paul. And once again, great to be on the show. And I'm glad you got the opening right, mate. That's a good start to the show. So that puts us on a good course with all the stars aligned, hopefully.
Yes, that's right. I see that you haven't got your lighting quite sorted this evening, but apart from that, we're all good. It's nice to see that you've got the my blue, the same versions I got it there. I think pretty much, or maybe it's a slightly earlier one.
Yes,
the Blues jersey.
It is the same jersey. The only I got this as a player issue jersey off one Benson Stanley. So there you go.
Oh, it's a player issue one. Oh wow, mine is not a player issue one. That's one step above mine. So you've got the pocket in the back for the GPS unit?
Yep, it's back here somewhere. But this is not an actual player issue, but a training player issue.
Oh, a training player issue. Okay, so not actually a game day one. So back in the day, they used to train in game colours, because now obviously they train in they don't train in the playing jersey, do they? They train a different type of jersey. Nowadays. But good evening to Simon, good evening to Nocturnal Rights, and good evening to everybody else who is joining us live. Don't forget you can join us live at, I'll just say at 8 p.m. every week, but there's only one more. This is the last week. But don't worry, you can join us at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday evening for the Driving Wolf Show every week, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So there you go. With that one. Also, you can listen to us as a podcast. Just search New Zealand Sport Radio on wherever you get your podcasts from. That's apparently the way you say it nowadays, not podcatchers or all of this kind of stuff. But anyway, we kicked off on Friday night, Stephen, with the Hurricanes versus the Reds. In this one, Laumape certainly came to play and make a point in his last home game for the Hurricanes, didn't he?
Yeah, very much so. Probably sums up Nani's career since he's obviously come back to rugby from the Warriors, if we can recall. And it was probably one of his better performances of the year. Just probably sending a parting shot out to New Zealand rugby, what they could have had, but that's probably another debate for another day. Yeah,
that'll be another debate for another day on that one. Look, it looks like we end up having lots of disallowed tries early on. I mean, Tupou was just short. Dongunu just managed to get Laumape, and Laumape put the ball down his leg, not on the grass. So a couple of disallowed tries really kept it sort of quiet in that first half. Actually, we also had the another one that was called back after Julian Surveyor had knocked on because of Lomax for his yellow card. This game, in all honesty, we did a post-match reaction to this one, and the post-match reaction was more about the referees than it was the actual play, unfortunately, in this one, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. As you know, I got a bit frustrated and ended up catching up the rest of the game on Saturday. That's how much it frustrated me. It's fair enough to say that during that first half, probably the Reds didn't always take their opportunities. The only one opportunity that they did take was a very impressive Tate McDermott taking his opportunity. And listen, he was quite busy all night as well. So that was a really good game. Might have actually been a game that got him into the Wallaby squad, but obviously we'll talk about that on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, Luke, so I've not actually looked at that today, as I had my daughters with me. So I've not actually looked. Whilst I know the Wallaby squad has been announced, I've not looked at it in any detail. It sounds like quite a big and comprehensive one from what I've read on Twitter, with not too many surprises. Perhaps a couple left out that weren't expected, but as you say, we'll get onto that on Tuesday evening on the Driving More show. Questionable as to whether that was a no arms tackle that led to the Geordie penalty just before half time. look, there was definitely arm in it. So I'm not really sure what was wrong with it. But hey, there you go. But so October Wright says, yeah, Reds really have to work on their tackling for next year. Absolutely, 69% tackling in this one. They missed 48 tackles in this game. So yes, we'll talk a lot about yes, there was a lot of talk, and there was a lot of talk about the refereeing, but that really just distracted from a very, very poor defensive effort by the Reds in this game.
Yeah, that's probably at the end of the day. What let them down? Not taking their chances as well. But they're capable of scoring points. Boy, they've got some really good, promising players. But really, at the end of the day, just so many missed one tackles. Really, really, and truthfully, their defence pretty much went out the window. Once Dalgunu got a yellow card early in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, to be other point, to be fair to the Reds, they had the Canes pack in all sorts of trouble. And I think that has been one of the things we've said about the Canes throughout the year is they need to beef up that pack. But they've got themselves. We've already gone as recruited a fairly chunky second rower for next year, so they're heading in the right direction in that one. But yes, so the second half. Look, it blew out. It was 10-7 at half time. It blew out to 43-14. But really, we had Dongunu getting yellow carded. Look, he got back. He made a tackle. He was now whether he got up from the tackle or some people say he got back on the side and came into the ruck and then fell off to the side of the ruck. Either way, he was stood up and he wasn't behind the last foot of the player, so he was offside. And he was also on his knees. A player comes through who gets tackled. He becomes the second tackler, tackling off his feet, which isn't allowed. So, but that wasn't what he was called for. He was called for offside. It was called cynical, and he got a yellow card. Now, to me, that was extremely harsh, considering he's the second tackler. So he's not actually the first tackler had made a tackle. It wasn't like one who bounced off, and he was joining it. So he didn't really alter play by much there. So to call it cynical and to go yellow card was harsh. Penalty, fine. Yes, he's offside and he got involved, but a yellow card I think was over the top by the referee in that one, personally. But letter of the law was the. I hate that terminology. Yes, the referee can justify the call from what happened, but yeah, as I say, I think the wrong decision was made there.
Very much so. Like you, I think we can all agree that it was very harsh.
Yep, and there were a couple of other harsh calls that were. Another one was we had the Canes pack retreating at a rate of knots. One of the props then because the Canes pack is going backwards, the Reds prop puts his knee down and gets straight back up immediately, and then gets called for being the first person to put his knee down. And I'm like, really? The reason he's gone down is because he's pushing, and basically what he's pushing against suddenly disappeared. So to me, that was again.
How do you hold your feet when the guy that you're marking on the other side of the scrum is going back at a rate of knots? Really and truthfully, I would just think, Paul, common sense by the official at the end of the day would take place, if you know what I mean. But gee, really? So once again, all the tight calls went against the Reds. It's fair to say. Yeah,
and look, and in that one, if you're collapsing the scrum, totally. He wasn't collapsing the scrum; he kept it up. So that was all harsh. And then look, Tyson says, I've been calling for more penalty tries. What happened to Hegarty was not what I had in mind. Absolutely. We then had a penalty try. Look, it was 22-14 at this point. So, and an 8-point gap, the Canes were going to win, but it wasn't going to blow out, I don't think, like it did. Penalty try. Now, the ball gets through. Lamapi is trying to reaches out for it. It bounces up more than all of us expected. Hegarty gets his hand on it, tries to bring it down to put it down, but ends up pushing it out instead and gets called for deliberately knocking the ball out and a penalty try, as apparently if he wasn't there, a try would probably have been scored. Not sure it would have been, considering where Lamapi was at that point. I think it could have easily bounced out anyway. So you got a yellow card and a penalty try. that blew it out to 29-14, and basically at that point the Reds had just gone, what's the point in playing this game when the referee's just blowing everything against us? Aaron says, yeah, agree, some harsh calls against Reds, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. Yes and no.
There's a lot of crumble. They had to eat a lot of crumble on Friday night, I tell you.
They did. And that's the kind of one where the referee should gets taken to one side afterwards and say, look, you had a bad day at the office. Now, I am not for one saying this guy should never referee again or anything like that. But there needs to be a review and to talk to him about what he's got wrong there in those ones. If they come out and say, hey, look, we got a couple wrong, then that'd be nice, but they don't have to come out publicly and say it. But he definitely needs to be told, definitely needs to be reviewed and told where he's gone wrong there, because that one was. And the problem with these calls, I mean, the knee down at the scrum, yes, he's making it as the play goes on. But this one and the Dongunu one, they've both gone to the TMO. We've had 4 sets of eyes all watching the replay, and that's the decisions they come to. Nah, sorry. And there also does seem to be with that Lomax one, a big effort by the referees not to give out reds in this one, because that very easily could have been could have been that one there. Nocturne says, it took the deserved loss of the Hurricanes' victory. Yes, look, I'm not saying the Hurricanes would have lost this game. I think they would still have won the game, but it definitely took a lot of the gloss off it. Aaron's there reckons that Heggsy's palms was facing outwards, not downwards. Look, it bounced up more than he expected. We're going to disagree. We'll have to agree to disagree on this one. He was trying to get it down, and it just went wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah. There was the intent to actually try and force it, and once again, that's what common sense, a little bit of common sense play. If you want to go under the letter of the law, my God, instead of warning players, why not penalise them?
Yep.
Really and truthfully, comes back to that consistency piece. Listen, at the end of the day, it was a victory for the Hurricanes, and well deserved. But I thought at the end of the day, the score flattered them and made them out to be a heck of a lot better than what they really were.
So the first game on Friday, all the discussion on Twitter was about the refereeing, not the rugby. Second game on Saturday, all the discussion on Twitter was about the jersey clash, not the rugby. So we had a good 4 hours of rugby that no one really talked about, because other things were going on that were leading the conversation, or the narrative, whatever you want to call it. Seriously, the Brumbies in their home jersey, or in their first choice jersey, the Highlanders decided that they will wear their away jersey, which is white with dark green shorts, against a team that are predominantly white with dark blue shorts. And trying to tell who was an absolute joke on the screens. Look, Super Rugby are brilliant at this. We've seen the Bulls versus the Highlanders, where the Highlanders had a blue jersey before over in South Africa. And again, you couldn't tell the difference. At least the Bulls then changed their jerseys at half time. Now, in one of the things that has happened is that New Zealand Rugby have gone away from what has been traditionally how you do rugby jerseys. In rugby, you have a first kit and alternate kit, and the home side will put on an alternate kit if there is a clash. And we've seen that when the All Blacks travel up to Scotland, with Scotland playing white at home, for example. When but what New Zealand Rugby have done is they've chosen not to have an alternate jersey, but to have an away jersey for the Super Rugby teams. I think it's probably last year, or at least within the last 2 years, that distinction has been made, and they're purely for commercial reasons, because they want to sell more of them. The Nike and New Zealand Rugby are asking the Super Rugby franchises to wear their second jersey, which is called their away jersey, when they're away from home, and it just leads to these farcical situations. As I say, traditionally, you don't have an away jersey in rugby. That's a football thing. You have an alternate jersey that you wear at home if there's going to be a clash. This kind of stuff just doesn't need to happen, does it, Stephen?
No, I totally agree. It is such a simple thing. And, just for the case of a perceived few extra dollars to buy extra jerseys, really, is absolutely nuts. And to be honest, I didn't see that game live, but I saw it the next day, and that was the first thing on my radar that I actually saw is why aren't they wearing different jerseys?
I don't think I paid attention to the first half at all because I was just watching the jerseys. And sorry if I said Nike, Adidas, Simon. Yes, you're quite right. Adidas is the sponsors of New Zealand. As far as rugby went, Ikitau got the first try in the corner. The Highlanders then went to their line-out maul, which worked for them really, really well in this one, and got themselves a try. Real good thinking here. The first line-out maul they threw to the front, and the Brumbies defended it well by pushing them all out. So from then onwards, the Highlanders went to the back of the line-out, where it's too far away to push it out off the sideline, and therefore did very well to get the scores. They got themselves a fantastic try off the with Aaron Smith running support of Nariki. Some great running lines there to go up 14-5. Then the a line out more went got over for the Brumbies with Lonergy at that Lonergy to make it a 2-point game at half time, 12-14. But I think a common theme in this one this weekend, I mean, look, the Hurricanes Reds was 10-7 at half time. This was 12-14 at half time. The Waratahs Chiefs was 7-14 at half time. 3 games there that are pretty close at half time, but then blow out in the second half as the I guess greater fitness and depth tells here. Look, a lot of these Australian sides have had to go to club rugby as they've run out of players. I think we're seeing that in the depth of their bench soon.
Yeah, it's to give the Brumbies a bit of credit. If you think back to the very, very first try Ikitau scored, that you could arguably say that first 10 or 12 minutes was dominated by the Hurricanes. So it must have, I beg your pardon, the Highlanders. So it must have been concerning that they, weren't getting the points. So the likes of Ash Dixon's try and of course Smith's try came at the right time, but that work was a little bit undone by letting Lonergan in for the try just before halftime. And you're right, when it got to halftime, gee, have we actually got a bit of a contest on? I know that the Highlanders, I always thought would get on top, get over the Brumbies simply because they needed the win and they needed to get that win with the bonus point. I didn't think for a moment they'd actually get the bonus point win, but I had a funny feeling they'd get the win. But even in the second half, it took them a while to get going again.
Oh yeah, well, they got some. Aaron Smith goes over after 46 minutes. That's a pretty quick one there. Next one came on 57 minutes and 63 minutes. So yeah, they dominated that second half in that period, and then just basically held out towards the end, letting Brumbies errors such as kicks out on the full, etc., be the way that be the way the game closed out with that one. But look, all the talk from Aaron Smith coming into this game, and as Nocturnal Right says, Aaron Smith was completely focused and driven. Modern great, best I've seen as a fly half, and a guy who really carried this team and made sure they weren't going to lose. This was we've seen Geordie Barrett carry the Hurricanes at times this weekend, and Aaron Smith was there to say, right guys, we are not losing this game. This is happening, and by pure force of will, made sure they got that try bonus point, I think.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nocturnal. He is. You can just even hear there was a moment there where they won a scrum, and he was so overexcited. I think in the next play he kind of blew it. I think he made a mistake no sooner than he was chahooing that they'd won the actual scrum penalty. But it just shows you how competitive the guy is, and I think he's easily the best number 9 I've ever seen in this country and for the All Blacks as well. He definitely comes into a full conversation in terms of best ever, alongside like Gareth Edwards and people of that ilk. Yep.
Aaron says, look, what would the Highlanders be without Aaron Smith? Look, we've seen that before when Aaron Smith and Ben Smith a couple of years ago had to take two of their rounds off because of All Blacks resting, you would find the Highlanders would lose those two games. Yes, they have one starting All Black in Aaron Smith, and obviously they used to have Ben Smith. They used to have sort of people like players like Fekitoa and I've gone blank as to the Sopawanga, Naholo. Yes, they always have been reliant on those kind of players to add the stardust to what is a very hard-working team.
Yeah. Listen, what would they be without Aaron Smith? They'll probably have Folau Fakatava there as well. And boy, if you ever wanted a really good understudy, there's your understudy right there. Now, anybody who's seen these documentaries that Sky have been running on individual players, the one on Aaron Smith was obviously the first particular one, along with Anton Leonard-Brown and I think just recently Tom Robinson. But what was so fascinating about the Aaron Smith one was how hard he works away from team training, always, even at his age, making himself better and better. And I think you'll find that he will hang around with the Highlanders as long as he can, and probably at some stage let Folau Fakatava transition into the number one halfback. But boy, what a handy backup to have. But also want to throw something in there. I noticed one of the celebration was with the Staghorns. So yeah. Social network is going wild and crazy at the minute. Has Aaron Smith signed with the Southland Stags?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look, he's a perhaps we need to get our friend down there to have a quick phone call with someone from Southland.
I could text them right now, actually.
Yeah, you've got them a text and find out. But look, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Look, he doesn't play for Manawatu Turbos. He's played once in the last 14 years, isn't it, silly? So why sign with them? Why not sign with one that's much closer to home, where he can easily get to a game if he needs to for fitness or coming back from injury purposes, and can still be at home with his family, with his business, if he's not with the All Blacks. Got
a young family. You did right. Invercargill is just down the road, not too far to go. He wouldn't want to uplift them again because, he's obviously with New Zealand for maybe a couple more seasons. I'd say post World Cup he's probably still going to be around. And I think just for the sake of his family, I think he probably wants to stay in Dunedin. So watch that story with interest. But definitely there seems to be a lot of people on the social network who seem to think there is a story there somewhere.
I mean, if there's ever a way to publicly announce it, that was pretty much announcing it. unless his club side is somehow got some sort of stags in it, that was publicly announcing that he's signed for Southland. Let's be blunt. As Nocturne says, he might play one game at most. Look, the only time he's ever going to play for them, pardon me, is if he's coming back from injury and needs some game time. Otherwise, he won't play for them. I know he did play last year. The only reason he played last year was because of COVID. And so unless we're going to have another COVID, the only reason he'll play for them is injury. And until 2024, as you say, they may decide after 2023 with him. How old is he? We'll do a quick Google on that. But with him, you'd have to think that with him being 32 years old now, he'll be 34 come the Rugby World Cup. He's not going to be going to the 2027 Rugby World Cup at what's that, 38. So you'd think they would move on from him at that point, even though he's got another couple of years of rugby in him.
But there's no reason why he can't carry on playing Super Rugby if, and I'm sure we'll get to this, if the likes of Richard Kahui and Jeremy Thrush can play until they're 37, 38. Hey, why not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he will definitely have 2 or 3 years left in him. And I think with him having those businesses in Dunedin, I can see him being a Richard McCaw style one club guy and not go overseas. I can understand. I mean, some people say, yeah, well, he'll take the money. Well, yeah, you take the money, but then you're not with your family and you're neglecting your business, which is your money after rugby. So to me, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he does stick around and become a one club guy. Anyway, they did what they needed to do. They got the try bonus point, and they'll be happy with that. That put them into that meant that the Crusaders had to win by 33 points. I mean, obviously, and/or pick up the try bonus point. But if you win by 33 points, you tend to get a try bonus point. It's an awful lot of penalties to kick to win by 33 points.
Yeah.
To get there. And up against Rebels, and early on, it looked like it was on because, hey, I mean, the Crusaders lost McLeod early on to an injury, unfortunately. But after 20 minutes, it was 7-26. And you got to say, at that point, with a 19-point lead, with a quarter of the game down, the 33-point win was very much on for the Crusaders.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I actually thought for a moment there they'd actually do it quite comfortably. But, credit to this Melbourne Rebels team. When they actually do hold on to the ball, they are able to create a little bit of pressure. But, they'll look back at probably some of their defensive structures in this game and how they defended. There was, I know, at the halftime break, both Michael Checker and also Morgan Turanui basically highlighted some of their defensive frailties. In fact, there was an absolute classic where three guys were defending on the left-hand side. Problem is, there was just absolutely nobody in front of them. So I'm not sure what they were defending, but if you look to the other side, they were thin on the right-hand side. And one of those tries, and it was a brilliant try. I think that was the Will Jordan try, was pretty much born out of just really not reading the numbers on the right-hand side. And the old halfback Joey Powell had to come out of defence to defend against Richie Moanga. Well, one-on-one with a bit of space, that was a no contest. And of course, once the ball got in the hands of Will Jordan, it was a try for all money. And before you know it, it's 12-0 before you know it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've got to say that whilst look, their tackling percentage is 71% and missing 48 tackles didn't help them. The real reason they missed those tackles, though, was because they were getting misallocations. They're getting allocations wrong, and therefore only had an arm out or a weak shoulder to try and make that tackle. It was their allocation and their matching up that was the problem, not necessarily their first up tackling per se that led to this one.
Yeah.
Not so much as how well did Andrew Kellaway play. He made the Wallabies squad. Yeah, look, someone I got to talk to when he was over here in might have taken a couple of years ago, which was nice to talk to him. But yeah, I put a tweet out saying that he was moving up the Highlanders Christmas card list very quickly with some of his play. Yeah, his chasing back, his tackle. And look, one thing about this Rebels team is they did not give up in this game, which for a game that really didn't mean anything to them. At the end of the day, they weren't going. It wasn't in front of the home crowd either because they were in Sydney. That was good to see that they kept that they kept playing for the full 80 minutes when they didn't need to in this one.
Paul, that's a good point. To give up your home ground is for a couple of games is a real big thing, because I would imagine they're a sort of team that rely on a bit of hometown support, and man, you've got to give them their dues. And I know we're not talking about that Australian team tonight, but there were definitely probably a couple of players that played their way into the Australian side. Seen Nika Sarani, the number 8, who's just been really, really impressive for them, has landed a place in the side, and of course also Callaway. I think Korobetti might have made the side as well. But so mate, good performance all round, and really impressed with young Gordon, who's come in for his first 5 for his first Super Rugby dance. He's been good as well.
Yep. Essentially, yeah. To be honest, the Rebels need 10 years to develop the player development pool, and Yeah, but they've had nearly 10 years already. Remember when they had Cipriani to start off with? Look, yeah, they do need time, but they've had time. They need to put some proper roots down there. Nocturnal right saying, yeah, a couple of Waratahs discards have made the Wallaby squad. Yeah, the Waratahs, the big problem there is they wouldn't spend the money. Look, they decided to spend under salary cap, and we've seen what's happened to them this year because of that. They lost players.
Yeah. So Paul, we've also got to remember is, these sides are also gauged against New Zealand sides that have got a ton of depth, a whole lot of depth. That's what we've got to remember. These guys have just got to be a bit belligerent. I think some of the issues have been in and around their coaching, and you could actually see that with that particular defensive pattern that we saw, Paul. I've never seen anything like that, where three guys were defending an area and there was nobody there. That's defense 101, if you know what I mean. They've got some good numbers playing there. The other thing, they don't get the cream of the crop. Rugby league gets the cream of the crop when it comes to the oval ball players as well. But what can help them in a big way is coaching. And I'm totally convinced of that.
Yeah, look, there was a comment in here that's about Checker being perhaps a technical advisor role to one or more of the franchises. Yeah, would he want to? I mean, he's got a lovely role at the moment at Stan Sport, to be honest. And he didn't leave on good terms with Australia Rugby. So there definitely needs to be some bridges mended there first on that one. Look, the Crusaders finished this one 26-52. They didn't get the 33 points they needed, 33 points difference they needed. It ended up being 7 points short of that. And when you think that Braden Ennell dropped the ball basically with the try line begging in the first half, we had a double movement one disallowed. We had another one where lost control of it, etc. We had passes being forced that led to turnovers. I think there's far too many. The Crusaders, whilst Mertz was saying, I don't think it's them being anxious or anything. I think it's over enthusiasm. No, they were nervous. They were so nervous on this one. And they were anxious. They were pushing it too much. And Mertz's commentary in this one was appalling.
And even more so in the last 10 minutes, you could see that anxiousness set in, and even that smooth, relaxed passing. All of a sudden, passes were basically pushed. I mean to say, if credit to the Rebels, they could have really shut them right out and kicked the penalty goal and left it at that. And you always thought it wasn't until that final whistle went that it was still on, because the Crusaders are capable of scoring a try from long range. But I've got to say, Paul, how fascinating it would have been to have been both a Highlanders supporter and a Crusaders supporter on the weekend. Here you are, the Highlanders. You've got your bonus point, and there's still 15 minutes to play, and you're hoping, oh, jeepers, can we score another try just to basically seal it, or else we've got to keep the Brumbies out. And in the same situation of Crusaders supporters, they still went through the whole emotion. I've got to be honest, for me, a dream final would have been the Crusaders v Blues, because I think that would have been a real acid test. But to say that, I've got to say, from a Blues point of view, there's also a sense of relief as well. Not that I'm being disparaging to the Highlanders, but to me, the Crusaders, whilst they didn't make these finals, I think they are the benchmark team. I do believe probably having to back up a week later after the final may have just cost them. They dropped their standards against the Reds, but also if you look back at probably that last minute bonus try against the Force as well that they let in, probably were just little things that they'll probably look back and missed chances.
Oh, absolutely. As you say, there was that. I think it was Brumbies who were straight after the final in week one, where they won by 1 point. As you say, yeah, and then also that Force. You say that Force late try that denied the bonus point there as well. Yeah, those on fine margins. This has this final been decided. But question for you, Stephen: how legitimate will the winner of Trans-Tasman be, with the Crusaders not being in there, and the Crusaders were on the same points? They've won the last 5 Super Rugby competitions. Does it devalue the title?
That's that's a great question, because, like, from a Blues point of view, the one that I'd always the one that I'd always want to win is Super Rugby Aotearoa, because those you get to play those teams up. If you're a Crusaders supporter, you shouldn't feel too down, because, man, as a Blues supporter, I'd take half of what they've achieved, despite what Aaron is trolling at the moment with his comment. They are still the benchmark. They are probably how everybody view the All Blacks, and when they get knocked down a peg, is it such a bad thing? Probably not at the end. Probably not at the end of the day. I mean to say, they pick up a bonus point, and it's the Blues travelling to Christchurch again. So you're right. That's how tight it was at the end of the game, and it's crazy to think that you played a competition where you actually didn't lose a game, but you're not.
And you still got the final,
sort of thing. I mean to say, that's where, at the end of the day, and I still haven't answered your question, where that almost gives me the answer, if you know what I mean. You've just played the competition where you didn't lose a game, and it came down to bonus points. Yeah,
it didn't even come down to bonus points. It came down to points difference. But even so, look, at the end of the day, whoever wins it is the legitimate winner, purely by the fact that they all played by the same rules. They all knew what the rules were at the beginning of the competition. No rules were changed to favour or unfavour certain sides. So, look, whoever wins it will be the legitimate winner. But that doesn't make you the best team in Trans-Tasman. Simon Hughes has asked a very serious question, though. Should Scott Robinson should be fired now for not making the final? Slipping up there by his own high standards.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Even my screen almost fell off its stand when you read that out. So, oh my God, no, not at all.
So anyway, so Simon asks. Simon disagrees. He thinks Trans-Tasman is more important than Aotearoa, but there we go. I'm not sure I agree. I think we've seen with the 5 New Zealand teams being the top 5 teams, that Super Rugby Aotearoa, where they're playing each other, is the more important one. So we know you were joking about Scott Robinson being fired. He says, random question: when will they decide on the format of the competition next year? Yeah, who knows? First off, Fiji, Drua, and Moana Pacifica have got to show they've got the funding to be able to get their contracts. Then Australia Rugby has got to be happy with whatever the format is. So look, we've got a long way to go yet before that gets decided on and finalised. So lots of things, both political and logistical, to be sorted out in that one. Look, Fat Exodus, who's a Blues fan, says he's disappointed. He would like to play the best in the finals and wish the Crusaders are there. To my mind, you know what? It's quite nice that someone else is actually going to win one. Whereas, look, a 6th Crusader win on the trot would be a bit boring. It does need to be shared around a bit. Otherwise, yeah, what's the point in watching these tournaments?
I'm with you, Fat Exorcist. I'm with you, though. It would have been great, if for me, for the Blues, it gives it. If you beat the Crusaders, if you beat a Crusaders team in the final, it gives it. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for, Paul? It just basically gives it gloss. You've bet the Super Rugby or the bench. You've bet the benchmark team, shall I say?
Yeah. A bit like South Africa winning the Rugby World Cup without beating the All Blacks. But anyway, I'll just drop that one there.
You've done well, Paul. You've done well.
Anyway, spoiler alert: the Blues beat the Force and made it to the final. If you haven't guessed by what we've been saying already, in this one, look, the Blues won this game in the first half. came out, absolutely dominated the Force in that in that opening half, winning it 28-0, playing some lovely rugby, led by the forwards, but using the backs when it was on, getting showing there's good communication into the decision makers, saying, look, the overlap's on, get the ball out wide now. At 28-0, you're thinking, wow, this could be, well, this is all over, but how big is the score going to get? Only for the Blues to basically switch off at halftime. And to be fair to the Force came back as well.
Yeah.
So the line-out maul eventually got there on 47 minutes. We had some silly play by Patrick Turpolotu, putting his shoulder into somebody at a collapsed maul, totally unrequired. We had then another disallowed one with a player clearing out after the ball was available, and whilst he was clearing out a player and his arm caught a different player in the head, it still was an unnecessary play that meant that a try was disallowed in that move, and he got yellow carded. So look, some bad decision making there in the second half of this one by the Blues, but they held on. You could see when they kicked over the 3 points, there was more composure in this one, in this side than we saw with the Crusaders, because they knew all they had to do was get the win, and that's all that mattered. They put the hard yards in the first 4 rounds to earn that position going into this game, and that helped their mindset, didn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, I wondered at 28-0 if there was they maybe already switched off and started thinking about the final next week, and probably just didn't pay the Force the due respect that they deserve. But and credit to the Force, they've shown in this competition they are a bit of a a second half side. But I also think one of the key things was the loss of Tom Robinson. He's such a good line-out option for the Blues. It just seemed once he'd left the field, they'd run out of options in terms of line-outs that went to the pieces, and they struggled in that second half, and then gave the Force way much ball than they should have. And the Force showed, we're capable of scoring some points, and we're on the improve. And I'll tell you what, if somebody had told me before the beginning of the season they'd hold the Chiefs, the Blues, and the Crusaders to under 10 points, I would have thought you're on drugs. Seriously, they are a very, very plucky side, and the the heartbeat to that team is centered right around Jeremy Thrush, and a couple of their veterans in the team, and also Richard Kahui in the backs, who, well, when you consider it had been 10 years since he played on Eden Park. That last game that he played in, ironically, was that 2011 Rugby World Cup final. Man, he's known for his the little touches that he does right. That's why he originally made the All Blacks, because he does the little things spot on, and once again showed his class. And gee, I love the competitive nature of Jeremy Thrush. He makes the line out a contest, and I think in the scheme of things, I haven't got the stats there, Paul, but I think he may have won most of his own line out ball.
And Aaron makes a point that the Blues line out fell apart in the second half. But to me, both sides. The Blues lost 4 lineouts, whereas the Force lost 5. Look, that made it a bit disjointed at times, where if you can't get have that platform, then it's a problem. Simon's saying again, a bit like the Rebels, that the Force need 10 years to develop. Well, yes, but they are putting development pathways in there. We have seen what is a very last-minute put-together game in this one, a last-minute put-together squad, which has meant they've had to go out and get these veterans as the only players available. Now, look, we've seen them improve during the season, which is good, and now hopefully we'll see them over the next few years once they've got that guarantee. Now they've got that guaranteed Super Rugby place to grow the homegrown players.
Paul, I just want to say, we shouldn't forget this is their first year back in Super Rugby. after a second year back.
Yeah, they were back last year, but I mean, they're back last year at like 3 weeks' notice.
Exactly. So in effect, let's say this is their first year when they've actually had a little bit of prep. So they've had to rely on players that they've had in the mix for a while. Hence why they've gone international. They decided to go, and I know for a fact not everybody in Western Australia is happy about that. I put a post up today, and a guy acted quite angrily to it. Obviously didn't agree with the fact that I'd sort of mentioned a lot of their senior players being the heartbeat of this Western Force side. So if they could somehow implement these younger players into this Western Australian team, or Western Force team, beg your pardon, it'd be the way to go. I see they've also signed a couple of players from other franchises. I think they've signed the backup first five from the Brumbies, who's basically heading across to the Western Force. But I know there is a bit of resentment towards the number of international players that they have over there. I mean, to say somebody like Paul, the son of Kane Koteka, the number 7, he's an example of somebody who's come out of their system, even the English number 8, even though he is Callan, I think his name, even though he is from England, he's come out of their local system as well. And I know back in Perth, there is a little bit of resentment around not picking those local players, but you can understand where the Force are coming from. They want to be competitive, and sometimes just for now, and I think they're only in a bit of a holding pattern before maybe they can unleash some of their talent over there. But we've got to say, big South African contingent over there as well, Paul, in Western Australia. So hopefully some of the talent that they have over there, or the younger talent, comes through.
Yeah, look, I mean, as you say, it's a holding pattern. They had to put a squad together at late notice, and now they can start putting younger players through. Now, as you say, one of the problems they've had around there is, or one of the things they've done is they have gone shopping and bought a whole bunch of young Australian players from the East and brought them over. So that might not improve the situation from a local player's point of view in the West, but it will improve the situation from a Wallabies qualified point of view. And for us, sort of foreign people who are watching in from overseas will go, oh look, they're all Australians, rather than going, oh look at all those All Blacks and English players in there. We'll be talking about, or ex-All Blacks, sorry. So it might not look more West Australia to the locals, but it will look more Australian to us, to the international audience.
Yeah, let's be honest here, Paul. Not all those internationals, I've got to say, have really, really stood up. I mean, so Rob Kearney at the back has been solid, and it was good to see him score a try, and possibly his last appearance you'll ever see him down at this side of the world, unless they select him again next year. There's an Argentinian front row, which is it Miotti. I really and truthfully, he hasn't sort of
Medrano, the front row, Medrano, been a bit hit and miss. Miotti, the fly half, has been a bit hit and miss as well.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean to say, I think your more consistent ones have been probably the halfback Thrush and Kahui, to probably a lesser extent. I just can't think of the rest of their personnel at this stage, Paul. But man, plucky out of all Australian teams, I think they're probably the pluckiest and gutsiest of the side. The only real heavy defeat they had was against the Hurricanes, I think it was, where they were well and truly thumped.
Yeah, no, look, it's a good start for the Force, a good foundation for them to build on going forward. So, yeah, happy with how they've gone with the resources they've got. Some comments about the backs of the Blues and a bit in the stats point of view here. So Mark Delia, 75 metres running with ball in hand, was good, but I mean, obviously we had those tries from him. But if you look at the other players in this, Terry Black, 4 metres running with ball in hand with 2 runs. TJ Faiani, 16 metres running. Rico Iwani, 16 metres running. Bryce Heem, 34, and Zon Sullivan, 23. Wow, that's not much rugby being played by those backs. It really was the forwards, when the opportunity is on, give it to Talia to score. basically Black, TJ Fiani and Sullivan kicking the leather off it, saying we're playing down your end of the pitch, not ours. Was essentially the game style, and we'll see whether that works against the Highlanders next week.
Yeah, and the other thing that really stands out from this game, 21-3 scoreline to the 21-3 to the scoreline in the second half to the Western Force. So it says a lot about their tenacity, and maybe a little bit about the Blues completely shifting, switching off. But there was a smart decision amongst all that, and that was to take the 3 points from Tere Black, because it just was enough to give them a little bit of breathing space. I mean, it's the last thing they would have needed to do is the Force to have got a last minute try, kick the conversion, and got a draw. That would have probably kept a really, really bad night for the Blues. But one thing's for sure, they can't afford to switch off against a Highlanders team that will be very motivated next weekend.
No, absolutely, that's very, very true. I'm just going to pick up a tweet that I saw about the next game for us to as we go on to talk about the next game. So just remember, rugby is a team game. So all 14 of you pass the ball to Wainui, which I think was pretty much the pre-game chat and the message for the Chiefs this week in their game against the Waratahs. I'll be honest, I switched off once Wainui got to 4 tries, and so I missed the red card at the end. But 5 tries for Sean Wainui. That's a bit of a good achievement for him.
Oh, listen, it's fantastic, and it couldn't happen to a nicer kid. He really is a good kid. I know the family reasonably well. Paul, I know his dad Peter will be absolutely stoked. That's a hell of a record to carry around. Most tries, and of course, he's been anointed by and taken that record of was it? Oh God, I can't remember one of the Fijian wingers that he's actually taken. I don't know whether it's maybe Sivi Vatu or maybe one of the other Fijian wingers that he's taken off, but it was a former Chiefs player that he's taken the record off. And few unfair comments on social network. My grandmother could have scored those tries. Really and truthfully, two or three of them were just straight run-ins, but boy, there were a couple of them, the last 2 especially, that he had a bit of work to do. Had to beat a player, get it in the corner, and the last one they looked at replays 2 or 3 times. He just showed he's a finisher. What else do you want from a winger?
Hey, look, even when you say, oh, all he had to do was just run it in. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened for that to that he's done for that to be able to happen. Sure, there's been a lot of work done inside, okay, to create to pull in the extra defender, but he has kept his width. He's got himself in the right position. He's let people know inside him that the opportunity is on, so he's communicated it as well. He's then actually caught the ball, which let's be honest, some players struggle with, and put it down as well. So, look, so for him though, look, so there's an awful lot of work that's gone in, even just for a run over try there. So look, I don't think that you can be disparaging about that at all. Yes, a couple of those tries were team tries, but it's a team game, folks, right? At the end of the day, as much as my joke email there of the old sort of rewording of the Lomu quote, so look, hat off to him, well done. Clearly, the Chiefs. Look, it's a poor Waratahs side that's had to go to the gone blank to the shoot shield to get a few players. A couple of those players on that team list I'm looking at going, who are they in the match day 23? So look, the Waratahs have got themselves through this season. They'll be happy to see the back of it. The Chiefs finished off on a high note. This season, they started off with a couple of losses, made it to the Super Rugby Outer final. Shaw came up short with a DMAC red card to the Reds, so couldn't have come last out of the Super Rugby out of the New Zealand teams that Super Rugby Tasman in 5th place. But a pretty decent season for them on the whole, and good for them to sign off with this kind of result.
Yeah, and listen, they've had to deal with the season throughout the most of it without the All Black skipper as well, Paul. It shouldn't be forgotten that Sam Cane has been one heck of a loss for this Chiefs team. Next year they'll have Brady Retallick back, and boy, they will be a completely different beast. One of those two young locks is going to be unlucky next year. You've got to say, Paul, to have to sit on the bench, and all of them, like Jacobson and Boshier, they've all had their moments with this Chiefs team. But boy, I just love how they're capable of sparking something out of nothing at times. I can recall a moment there where they basically broke up from their own goal line, and it was only really a misdirected pass by Brad Weber, which probably stopped us seeing one of the tries of the season, taking into account who they were playing. To be honest, with the Waratahs, they didn't offer a whole lot of threats in their team, and I'm going to probably butcher his name, but Nakotoa. No, I don't even know I can't even begin to say his name. But the boy playing fullback for the Waratahs, he was probably their best attacking weapon once Parisi had left the field with what looked like a serious injury, and obviously one that's going to keep him out of the Wallabies. Which it's a good segue into what Nocturnal Rights has just said about Lockie Swinton. Listen, I love the way Lockie Swinton plays the game. He plays right on the edge, and he's probably a Simon Poitevin, Rocky Elsom type player. That big number 6 that's got a bit of attitude. But I think it's something in his game that he's going to have to rope in. There's probably a lot for you to take into, Paul.
Yeah, so I switched off by the red card, but yeah, you can't bash. You can't go into a ruck and put your shoulder in someone's head. From what I've seen of the replays of it, something he just needs to get his decision making better on. Nakwana Tuasi, and I butchered it, but I made a good go. Attacking wise, yes, but defensively has some problems in there. And you're right. Look, Parisi, real shame for him to dislocate his shoulder. Very, very sad. And I put a tweet out saying, hey, look, final game of the season, Parisi versus the Chiefs, because at certain times it looked like that he was basically he was fighting a one-man army. And once he went off, it became a little more than a semi-opposed training run, effectively.
Just so powerful. You mentioned putting him around really, really good players. Imagine him in a New Zealand franchise, be an absolute handful with in a good franchise team. He would be an absolute handful with ball in hand and a bit of space. He is one player in this Waratahs team that I don't think has dropped his standards throughout, and has always looked relatively strong. Unfortunately, a lot of areas where they've struggled. They've struggled at scrub time. Listen, Jack Wetton has gone all right for them. He's been solid, and so is Sam Caird when he's been on. But in reality, they probably wouldn't have made a New Zealand super squad, those two boys, if I'm correct.
Yeah, look, it's with Parisi, and there was the comment there that look, he goes in full ball on every single tackle. He doesn't need to do that. So again, look, he's still a young guy. I'm pretty sure. Just needs to learn around decision making. You don't have to smash people in every single tackle. He's 24, a bit older than I thought, perhaps. You don't have to smash someone in every single tackle, and that's probably what led to his injury there. Unfortunately, let's hope he comes back fully from that. You're talking about there about Retallick coming back, and that either Arcoy or Va'ai will have to sit on the bench. Well, look, what I think it gives them is the ability to rotate those three, right? It means they don't have to play Retallick every single game or start every single game. A bit like, why did Fukatava sign at the Highlanders? Well, because he knows the All Blacks are quite happy for Aaron Smith to be putting Colin Wall and come off the bench half the time during the season. He doesn't need to play 80 minutes every game. So give Fakatawa 60, 40 minutes every game, and he'll develop nicely. So look, I wouldn't be, if I was a Lord or an Arcoy or a Vai, I would not be looking to try and find another franchise to go to just because Retalic's coming back and going to take up some game time.
I agree, Paul. You know, I think players, the modern players, got to realise this is a 23-man game these days, and all you can do is go out whether you come off the bench or not, and just put your best foot forward. And if you're coming off the bench and you're adding value, I think you're opening. I think you're putting yourself in a good position, no matter who the coaches are, whether it's your own coaches or the All Black coaches.
I mean, look, and Brodie Retallick, what is he now? He's 30 years old. And he could. Look, he'll be happy, I think, to manage his game time over the next 2 years up to the World Cup, and who knows what he'll do after that. Obviously, he's already been to Japan for 2 years as sabbatical. Will he want to go back again? It depends on how his time has gone up there. But Wayne Smith has said he's playing some of the best rugby of his career. So maybe he will be back there. Maybe he will go back after the World Cup. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, folks, that's our roundup of the round 5 action. Just one game next weekend as the Blues host the Highlanders there up at Eden Park. Apparently 8,000 tickets already have been sold since this morning. So let's hope there's a sellout at Eden Park for their first final in 18 years. And let's hope there's a nice big crowd there. Stephen, thank you very much for joining me.
No problems, Paul.
Hope you had a great weekend. Well, actually, I know you've had a sick weekend, so hopefully you're nice and rested for work next week. And
there's been a lot of sleep.
And folks, don't forget to join us on Tuesday evening for the Driving Maul Show.